What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome into another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog and the Underdog Fantasy family. And speaking of Underdog, if you use promo code TRIPLE, you'll get a deposit match up to $100. I got 99 problems, but a deposit match ain't one. That's right, $100 up to 100 there. If you use code TRIPLE, they'll double that first deposit for you. So make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy for all your best ball needs. We got the crew here tonight, me, and we got Little Cheesecake, and we got the Doc. No Marty party tonight. He's not feeling well, so send your best wishes to him over up in Michigan. But I do have Little Cheesecake next to me. What's been new, man? It's been a whole week since we last talked, but it feels like longer. Give me the what's new in Cheesecake's world now.
Well, I took my kids climbing for the first time. I've been doing climbing as a hobby. Took my kids climbing for the first time, and I think they liked it. I think they caught the bug. It's a really fun hobby that I've been doing. That's new. Very exciting for me.
Now it's like, do you have like the toe shoes and like, are you like full?
Yeah.
You're fully immersed in it now. You got the gear.
Well,
Everything.
yeah, you can't rent the shoes. The rental shoes, I think they make them purposely bad, so that they're harder to climb with, so that you would buy the shoes. That's my theory on it. Like
Fair
there's
enough.
some sort of a system.
Do you know how to do the harness now yourself too? Because I remember when I was in college, you had to learn how to put your own thing in.
I don't use a harness. I do what's called bouldering. So the walls are not very high. They're just like 20 feet, and they just put big soft pads down. So if you fall off, you fall on a big soft foam pad. And so I would not know how to do a harness at all. I wouldn't know the first thing about how to do it.
Would you do the one if you did have the harness where you go up and you're basically your back is facing the floor? Would you ever do that, or is that too much?
Absolutely. No, that sounds like a lot of fun. There are
Oh, man.
boulders. Bouldering is like that. So there's some boulders that you do that, but you're like 5 feet off the ground, but you're climbing like that.
The adventurous cheesecake. I like it.
It's fun.
Doc, I don't know if Doc says adventurous, but hopefully he's as exciting. What's been going on with you?
I am not as adventurous. For the listeners, David and I had a good old fashioned brothers weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Played a PlayStation, ate pizza, ate Captain Crunch for dessert, drank soda, and watched NBA. It was like a 15-year-old sleepover.
Oh, it was fantastic. I think we both needed that too. It's been a long last couple of weeks work and stuff going on in our personal lives, and sometimes a brothers weekend's all you need just to reset.
Agreed.
Although I'm gonna have that Ninja Turtles game paused on that halfway through the game. Who knows when we'll actually ever finish it?
I'll come up to New Jersey soon. We'll finish it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the podcast tonight. If you've been following along with our series, you know we've been doing our position previews. We've covered first base, we've covered second base. We're sticking on the middle infield now, and we're going to go over to the shortstop position, covering what is some may call the most exciting position in fantasy baseball, real life baseball. A lot of studs over at the shortstop position. As we've done each of the last few weeks, we're going to go looking at NFBC ADP over the last 2 weeks. So it's just over 30 drafts to get the most accurate data to kind of really find how drafters are going about the shortstop position here. So Cheesecake, I'm going to start with you. And again, for our audience, you guys know we go 1 through 10, 11 through 20, and then we go after 20 in terms of ranges of ADP for guys we love and guys we do not like at their ADP. So starting off 1 through 10, Cheesecake, who is someone that you are finding yourself loving to draft in that range?
As I was talking with you about before the show, it's really hard to pick because there's a lot of good shortstops that provide you a lot of good values where they're going. Power, speed combination. This is one of those positions where you can get both. My favorite, I think it's Bo Bichette. I'm going to have to say Bo Bichette. It's tough to pick. Bobby Witt could be my favorite. Nico Horner also, I really love him. But I think Bo Bichette is being a little bit slept on. I think Bo Bichette is kind of like Corey Seager without 40 home run potential, but more speed. I think that you're getting about the same production, especially when you factor in the potential for some lost plate appearances for Seager. I really love Bichette's potential to produce at like a Seager-like level, but you're getting him a round and a half later.
Are you worried about the drop off in stolen bases and just the overall speed element being taken out of his game?
Corey Seager with the stolen bases, he had 5 last year.
Well, he's done more. Yeah, 5 last year, all of last year. I don't know. I think the projection, I would project him to be back above 10 again. It is about desire. He stole 25 just a few seasons ago. So tough to say what he's going to want to do. 5, when you look at last year about how he only had 5, it's not impressive. I don't think Seager had 5, but like he's not really giving you a lot more, but he is giving you runs and RBIs aplenty, as well as power. And the batting average, it's pretty comparable to what Seager hit a lot better last season on the whole, but like projecting into this season, I think you project them pretty similarly as far as batting average goes.
So Art, I'm a big Bo Bichette guy, and he's not my fade, but I couldn't get down with his ADP, and the lack of stolen bases is a big thing. Do you remember last year when he went on the IL multiple times with right knee discomfort, right patellar tendonitis? That to me worries me. That seems like something that could linger over. Like, you're not worried about that?
No, I am, and I think that's probably why the stolen bases were down to 5 last year, because he was having a little bit of knee pain. He played through it, still got 571 ABs, hit 306. I mean, I think he's a gamer. I think he's a really good hitter. And I think Toronto's a decent offense still to invest in, where he's going. And that the other part you realize, he's like the 6th or 7th shortstop going, and he's like pick 38. Like, you got to decide in the first 3 rounds of a 15-team league if you want a shortstop. Like, are you ready to go that high for a shortstop? Because like the best ones are all gone by round 4. So that's what's like, he's like the end of that run of top shortstops at 7 or 8. Yeah, CJ is 8. So it like his price is just commensurate with what shortstop's buying price is right now, I think.
The way I look at Bo Bichette is he's kind of like, if I want someone that has the upside with the bat, I'm going to go Corey Seager. If I want someone that could give you stolen bases to where there's a huge benefit, I might just go for Trey Turner. I feel like Bo Bichette doesn't give you enough of anything in particular where I feel I would want to take him this early. That's just me personally. He's not like, he's not my fade either. But I don't think right now, currently, where his ADP stands, and right now he is the 7th shortstop off the board, I believe, if I'm going back here. He's the 7th shortstop off the board, but he is still going in the top 40 picks. So in a 15-team league, he is still going in the 3rd round. I would much rather just take Corey Seager in the 2nd round, to be honest with you, or even take Trey Turner in the 1st, because I would rather secure the stolen bases that I think are going to be there. And you could be right. Maybe it was the injury last year that really limited his steals. But if I also remember correctly, and I'll double check this, I think he was getting picked off a lot when he was trying to steal bases too, which also could have factored into why he is not running as much.
That's interesting. I didn't know that fact. I'll say this, like, pick Trey Turner. I love Trey Turner. He's a great pick.
Oh, you're going into my love.
But I'm not saying if you're like going between the two, I think Turner's a great option. But like Bichette, I think is good where he's going, because I do think he has the like 4 categories with the potential for 5. I think he's good on 4 categories. So
if going to what I was saying, Bo Bichette, so he had his big breakout in stolen bases. He had 25 stolen bases, only 1 caught stealing that year. 2022, he had 13 steals and 8 caught stealing. And then last year he had 5 stolen bases, but 3 caught stealing. Last 2 years, he's got 11 caught stealing and 18 stolen bases. That's horrible. That's absolutely dreadful. I mean, again, if he can get back to the 25 and 1 or somewhere even close to that, then obviously he's going to be a huge value. But having 18 combined steals over the last 2 years and 11 caught stealing, maybe there's more there than we realize with that maybe he's just, they're telling him not to run as much because he's just giving up too many outs at this point.
Maybe his stolen base days are over. Yeah.
But it is interesting. Obviously, again, I think that's why he's the 7th ranked shortstop, is based off the track record for stolen bases the last few years here. So But the bat, there's no denying the bat has as much upside as any shortstop here, maybe outside of Bobby Witt. So could be a value. Obviously, we will find out when the season starts. So I don't hate the call there, LC. But Doc, we did start bleeding into Trey Turner, which is somebody that you love very much in this range. Talk to us about why you love Trey Turner so much.
Well, remember, Trey Turner was going in the top 3 picks last year. He was number 1 consensus before he signed with Philly. So I feel like you're getting him a discount now. 3 straight 20 home runs, 25 stolen base seasons. That's the floor you're going to get. 30 stolen base upside is what he's going to give you most season. He had that last year. He had 32 in 2021. Last year, 266 batting average, which is still above league average, but that was actually his worst since his rookie year. The previous 4 years prior, 298 and above. So he's helping you out in that category. He's pretty durable. 148 games at least the last 3 seasons. He's missed 23 over the last 3 years. Obviously, he missed a couple games because of the birth of his child, which we all knew came 9 months after he signed that big contract. Played 59 out of 60 games in the COVID 2020 season. And like we talked about with Nick Castellanos last year, sometimes the first year when you sign a big contract, especially in Philly, can just be a little bit overwhelming. We saw the second half of the season, 16 home runs in August and September. Remember, he had that torrid stretch in August where he won Player of the Week, where he hit like 423 and 6 home runs. And I know, obviously, he's the second-ranked shortstop. So I do think he should go behind Bobby Witt. But I look at his ADP about 11 or 12, and I would take him above Fernando Tatis. I would take him before Kyle Tucker. I would take him before Spencer Strider. And I think he's a safer pick than Corbin Carroll. I think Corbin Carroll has a higher ceiling at this point. But I think if you want to go with a safer option in the first round, Turner's the guy.
So he's up in like your top like 5 or 6.
Yes.
I could see that, especially after the second half of last year. Put him right back up where he was.
Exactly. And Philly has a good lineup around him too. And I can say that better than, Corbin Carroll and Fernando Tatis. I do worry about the Padres lineup without Juan Soto in there.
So Trey Turner, if you remember, do you remember the standing ovation that he got during the season?
Mm-hmm.
So Trey Turner went on a 10-game hitting streak after that standing ovation. And to finish the year, he was hitting. So at the time before that, he was hitting 235 with 10 homers, 34 RBIs, and 21 steals in 107 games through August 3rd. In 48 regular season games after the ovation, he hit 337 with 16 homers, 42 RBIs, and 9 steals with a 1037 OPS. So that the difference in his numbers was staggering. And I know, it's like you can't really quantify that. But at the same time, someone that signs a 10-plus year contract in a city like Philadelphia that's going to have, we know Philly fans are going to be ruthless if you're not performing, right? So there's always, I feel like, the pressure in the first year of a big contract to perform. And maybe that standing ovation helped kind of unlock what we know Trey Turner can do. If you had to bet on it, do you guys think he gets 30 steals this year?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, 30 would be fine. But he slowed down when he started hitting better. His steal has slowed down when he started hitting better at the end of the season. So maybe I'd be saying in 20s would be more my projection. I would project 25 to 30.
The lowest he has in a full season is 27.
And Art may be right. Like, again, also, once you get paid, maybe you don't want to risk running as much on the base paths anymore because you want to, you want to have be able to not say live up to your contract, but you don't, obviously you're not trying to, you're one of the team's best hitters.
He's in the 99th percentile sprint speed though, especially if he moves up to leadoff and then move Kyle Schwarber down the lineup. That's what I think would increase his stolen base upside if they finally take Schwarber out of leadoff.
We'll have to see how they construct the lineup, but I think Trey Turner definitely proved that he's worth, at very worst, a second-round pick this year. So he'll obviously be taken in the first in some drafts as well. But I think people are comfortable where he's going. He's not maybe a top 5 to 7 pick anymore, but very much I think he's a good value where he's going. And I know we talked about this guy as well. I'll touch on my here, and Corey Seager, who before last year had the most hits lost because of the shift in all of Major League Baseball. The man bounces back to hit 327, hit 33 home runs in just 119 games. He legit would have been an MVP. No one was going to take Ohtani for MVP, but he was the next guy in line. He was just absolutely toured with the bat. On top of that, this man's striking out only 16% of the time, walk rate 9%, an OBP of just under 400. I mean, what anything besides stolen bases, Corey Seager gave you last year and then some. He was one of the best picks in fantasy last year, going as like a third or fourth round pick, but performed like a first round player, just absolutely dominant. And I know you have to pay the price for Corey Seager. You know, right now he's going as the third shortstop off the board, and you have to use a second round pick on him. But I'm okay, like if I have a back end pick to try to get someone that could give me steals in the first round and then taking him in the second. I love that start. I genuinely like, I'm okay trying to make up steals somewhere else to get a hitter like Corey Seager. And if I'm in a points league, he's not even going to last to this point. So obviously Roto is really only where he's going to go in the second round, I would think. But in points or in Roto leagues, he's, I think, the perfect second player to pair with a dominant first round pick. What do you guys think?
If I knew he was going to play a lot, like he had great stats in 119 games last year, but still missed 43 games. He played 151 the year before, which I like to see, but 95 the year before that, 52 out of 60 in the COVID season, 134 out of 162 the year before that, 26 the year before that. It always seems like he misses a portion of the season, and this is probably the highest his ADP has been in the last 5 years. So you have to be prepared that he is going to miss a little time and that he needs to do what he did last year to live up to that draft price.
I mean, he's also in one of the best lineups in baseball right now, too. That was a lot of counting stats.
I think he's an interesting pick because he's going among a lot of similar players at different positions, like Austin Riley, like Yordan Alvarez himself. You know, that's after like the speed's gotten off the board. Like you can hope for like a Bryce Harper to get 20 steals, 15 to 20 steals. Like then after that is these guys aren't going to be getting steals, Alonso type guys. And so like when you start to think of him in that world, he's a really good pick. When you consider him against Alvarez, who you might have him Alvarez slightly above Seager, or I don't know how you'd flip them. And Riley, where would you have him as if you're going against Seager? But as we were talking, I think perfect to pair him with is someone like Jose Ramirez. Because if you're going at like pick 18, if you're trying to get him at pick 18, you might have Ramirez on the board when your first round pick is coming up. So you go Ramirez, you're getting steals. Second round pick is Seager, and your hitting is starting off really nice.
Yeah, so that is a realistic scenario. Jose Ramirez right now is ranked as the 14th player going off the board. And then you realistically could get Corey Seager on the way back. So you would have two infield positions locked up. Obviously, well, when we get to outfield, we'll talk about it. The outfield is a little bit weaker this year than it normally is.
I feel like we say that every year.
I think we say about other positions. Outfield, I think, is really weak this year. But yeah, like someone like him or Shohei Ohtani is also a guy that might give you some steals as well. But yeah, I mean, I think as long as you pair him with the right players, or realistically, let's say you go the start of Shohei Ohtani and Corey Seager. By the time it comes back to you, who's on the board that could maybe give you steals? So like, let's look at like the third round. So maybe
Garcia.
So you're talking
Randy
about
Arozarena.
Pick 40, 43, 40.
Yeah, 40, so I have it on the screen right now. So like
Garcia.
Randy Arozarena.
Yeah, might have to get your steals early this year.
Yeah, Arozarena does steal. I think he's pretty good for 20 steals. He's not bad. I'm not trusting Nolan Jones very much.
Yeah.
Cody Bellinger.
Not trusting Bellinger once he gets paid.
Oh, man. Yeah, you're running Nico. This is why I love Nico. You can put him at second base, and he has steals.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe you would have to grab him. You'd have to take him in the 4th round. I wouldn't reach. I
Yeah.
don't think I'd reach for him in the 3rd here in this case. But if you could get a Randy Arozarena in the 3rd round, that would kind of be a perfect balance for your team in this case.
Yeah. Then you need to start getting pitching, but like your top 3 hitters would be like a good match together.
Yeah, agreed. Let's go to the next range though. Let's start talking about the players we love going in, or I'm sorry, let's flip the coin first. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Players we don't like so much. And Doc, I know me and you are on the same guy here in Ellie De La Cruz. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and take lead off on why you're not drafting him.
Well, it's funny you mentioned leadoff because we don't even know if he's going to hit there this year because you'd think he would. He hit leadoff 22 games last year, but he hit third 19 games. He hit fourth 41 games. And he hit 7 through 9, 13 games. So they moved him all over the lineup. Roster Resource currently has him hitting 4th. When you look at Ellie De La Cruz, he's in the 100th percentile of max exit velocity and the 100th percentile of sprint speed. I can't think of any player in the history that's done that before. So his ceiling is like somebody we haven't seen. And there is a chance that David and I are wrong about him. But I look at his career, he's had a sub 10% walk rate at every level for every season, besides 38 games in AAA in 2023. Pair that with a 33.7 K percentage in his 98 games in the majors. The second half of the season, he hit 191 with 9 home runs, 28 RBIs, and 19 steals in 68 games. You're paying a premium at the 23rd pick. That's a 2nd round pick right there. As I mentioned, if he's not hitting leadoff, if they have him hitting 4th, I think we see less stolen base upside from him there. And as we've talked about on previous pods, the Reds have a crowded hitting lineup. There was a certain point last year we talked about is Ellie droppable because he's hurting your team so much. Now, obviously, you're not going to drop him at any point because of the upside he provides. But I'm not comfortable paying that premium of a 2nd round pick for somebody in the second half of last year. We were talking about, can you roster him?
Yeah, so he's right now kind of going between the 2nd, 3rd round range on NFBC. And I've heard a couple of people joke about, they said, when you're in real drafts, like he doesn't go that early. Like I think people are getting enamored by the hype, but this is the type of player you're getting. He burst on the scene in June /325, 363, 524 with 4 homers and 16 steals in his first 135 plate appearances. After that, 191, 271, 355 with 9 homers and 19 steals in the second half. So you can see the tools are flashy. You can see that there's a lot to like there. I think similar to O'Neal Cruz, who he gets compared to a lot. It's like if they can put it all together, you might have a 1st round pick type of player, and there's upside in this offense that could be good. And then you read articles, the Sports Illustrated put out that he's been working this offseason to eliminate his leg kick that was leading to so many strikeouts and, retooling his swing to become a more consistent hitter. Now, do you buy into those types of narratives? Obviously, that's what can create helium in someone's ADP. As it stands right now, as Doc mentioned, I don't mind taking Ellie De La Cruz. Like, I would be interested to draft him. But as it stands right now, he's going as the 21st player off the board. So you're getting him with a mid-2nd round pick. I think that's just way too early for someone that's still this volatile. And you're not getting someone that's guaranteed to be somebody that's going to give you a lot of production. So I just think I'm out on the price. I think the player can be amazing, but I think you're paying it for a ceiling pretty much right now. And I'm not comfortable with that.
I think he's a better real life person to watch because he's so exciting. And those stats won't necessarily translate to the box score. But David, you said an SI article. Throwback Thursday. Thursday to when SI was around.
So Ryan Hunt, who I think is new in the chat, welcome Ryan to the show. Appreciate you hopping in here. He said he's more confident in O'Neal Cruz than Ellie De La Cruz this year. O'Neal Cruz is going at the 78th pick off the board. Would you guys rather wait for someone like O'Neal Cruz who potentially could give you some type of production similar, albeit not as good a lineup? Is that something you guys would be more interested in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to go for something that's a little bit risky with an upside, hope for an upside, rather take it later than in the 2nd round.
And look, I mean, I know he had a gruesome left ankle injury, but he's taken his time to come back from that.
Yeah.
I don't think they rushed him back last season.
Art, before let's move to the next section in a second. Give us your fade in this range.
Yeah, my fade is Gunnar Henderson, and not because I don't like him, the ball player. I do think that he's going to have a good second season. I think you could see growth in him, and he has a high ceiling. But I do worry about taking him where he's going. He's going around pick 32. I think as you look as a shortstop, he's less valuable because his hitting production doesn't outweigh the fact that guys going right behind him as a shortstop steal a lot more, like C.J. Abrams and Nico Horner, and Bo Bichette's going behind him as well. But also, when you look at like third baseman going behind him, like you drop a couple rounds, you got Bregman and you have Arenado. It's like he's going this high, I think, because of his versatility, and you can, take him and decide whether he's your third base or your shortstop later. But I think you're also losing out on crucial statistics that you need to be building, where shortstop helps you provide like stolen bases. You can get like a CJ Abrams or Nico Horner, or you can go with Bo Bichette, who probably is going to produce similar to or better stats than Gunnar on the whole over next season. So it's like, I think he's just like, his versatility is good, but it's not worth the price he's going.
I think that's fair. I mean, you are paying a very high pick for him this year. So the lineup context, I'm sure, boosts that. Obviously, rookie of the year, hitting 28 home runs, had an amazing second half of the year. I stopped short of saying league winner, but he looked like a legit all-star player second half of the year.
The first 2 months, 189, 213 batting average. He really picked it up after that. 245 and above in all the other months.
Would you guys rather have Francisco Lindor or Gunnar Henderson?
Gunnar.
I like Lindor. I think Lindor is going to just be pretty solid. Gunnar, the biggest worry with him is his left hand hitting against lefties. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's at a risk to lose at bats to that now, but he might sit more than you want because they do have Ramon Urias to play third base, and he's a righty. Mm-hmm. If there's like a tougher lefty coming up, he might sit more than you want against lefties just because he's just not that good against them.
Did Lindor have the quietest 30-30 season in Major League history?
He did have a very quiet 30-30 season.
Super strong season last year.
He also had right elbow surgery after the season to remove a bone spur. So I know that's a minor surgery, but I do wonder for somebody like that's 5'11", 190, if that affects his power at all.
We'll see. I do like waiting on Lindor or Henderson over Elly De La Cruz at this point right now. But yeah, I think this is an interesting range at the top 10 of shortstop here. CJ Abrams, someone we did not talk about, going as the 8th ranked shortstop. Does anybody think that's a little high for him?
Yes. I think you're banking on him being an accumulator.
I think he's going to have a lot of steals that are going to be really valuable. So I think he's going to get he's going to be worth his pick. But I think it's in a range where there's a lot of other really appealing options where he's going. So it's tough to go with him because he has only put up like half of a season of really good ball.
Yeah, agreed. Let's go then to the next range here, the 11 to 20 range. And Doc, who is the player in this range that you think you would want to draft a lot of?
So for me, it's going to be Trevor Story. And, this is somebody that wasn't even supposed to play last season. He had an elbow procedure. It wasn't Tommy John. They called it internal bracing. That's what Brendan Donovan is going through this season or this offseason. So it'll be interesting to see if this is an approach that players follow for future years and how they bounce back from it. I like that the Red Sox lineup context, we've talked about they're hitting with Yoshida, Tristan Casas, if we expect another year from, breakout from him, Rafael Devers, and they project Story to hit 4th. And he's a big guy. He's 6'2", 213. I look at what he did last year. Obviously, it wasn't impressive from a power perspective. He had 3 homers in 43 games. I do kind of chalk that up to coming back from an elbow procedure maybe too soon. But I look at what he did on the base pass, 10 stolen bases over 43 games. If you extrapolate that for an entire season, that's 37 steals, which would be a career high for him. He's 31 years old. He's not too old. And I think The thing about Trevor Story, David, you remember when we were in FPAS last year? I took him in, I think, 5th or 6th round, and it was announced on January 10th that he was undergoing elbow surgery. So it was very close to the season, or I think it was his bulky elbow was kept under wraps in the offseason. So I think he's just not a name that we've heard a lot recently. But as the 18th ranked shortstop and an ADP, I'm looking right now at 177, I'm willing to take that shot.
Does it worry you that basically his time in Boston, this is a guy that's had an over 30% strikeout rate, a batting average that's basically 220? He has 19 home runs combined in 137 games. Like, is he? I don't want to say is he washed, but like.
No, because the first year there was a transition to second base, and I think he focused more on fielding than just hitting. And I know he's a guy that's always striking out. Like, for his career, he has a 29% K rate, but I like the power speed combo. I like the lineup context, and I think at 31, I'm not willing to say he's a wash. And once again, it's the draft price. Am I going to take him top 100 like he was going last year? No, but 177 is probably the cheapest that you got him in a while.
I just am scared of 15.4 and 16.1% swinging strike rate over the last 2 years. And I know those haven't been full seasons, but in baseball, when sometimes you lose it really quickly. And not saying that he's not going to give you steals, because he definitely can. And not saying that he couldn't be like a 2020 player in like best case scenario, because I do think that there is value at that at this point in the draft. I'm just worried that it's just going to be so inconsistent from him that like there'll be points when you're benching him, for a week, because you're like, I can't keep just taking all these strikeouts, and he's hitting like 150, so he's killing my batting average. I'm benching him this week because he's going against the Dodgers and four times, and I don't want to play him. And then he gets 5 steals that week, and like he just ends up being more of a headache than it's worth. That's the only concern I have with him, outside the injury concerns, of course. I think he's more one of those guys I probably won't draft as much, but I'm not necessarily saying like I'm fading him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I mean, I do think he will hurt your batting average, even though the first season with Boston, he hit 238, and then with the Rockies before, 251, 289, 294, 291. So we've seen a little bit of volatility in the batting average. I do think it is below league average, so I'll say he hits below 245 next year. But I think he can help out in every other category. And, we had Frank come on last week, and he said he thinks the Red Sox could be a sneaky top 5 offense. So I want somebody hitting cleanup in what we think could be a good offense.
LC, speaking of good offenses, is there somebody here in this range that is part of a good offense that you like?
Tough one. I lean towards Doc with Story. I think it's a good call, because you can project him to be really valuable there as a shortstop. I think Adames is also a good call, because he's going late and he has power. The only thing that's going to hurt you is his batting average is going to be pretty low, but he hits for power. It's good counting stats. Not going to get you a lot of steals, but if he can, you can take a little bit of a batting average hit. I think he's a really valuable pick where he's going, and is going to return that good value. I'm teased by Volpe as well.
Teased.
I'm teased by Volpe as well. His zone contact was not terrible, and he has good power speed, like Story almost. Similar power speed. I think they could produce similar seasons next year. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit teased by Volpe as well.
21 and 24 as a rookie.
Yeah, 209 though. Like his XBA was 230, so it's like, could he hit 230 with 2020?
What was his numbers after the chicken parmesan meal he had?
His second half.
Oh my gosh, what a reference!
His second half was not like noticeably better than his first half in batting average. I think it was worse actually, but he was only like 21 or something like that last year. He's really, really young. So, like, when is he going to blow up? I think he's going to. He's 2020 as like a 20-year-old is pretty impressive.
You know,
However old.
so let's stay on Anthony Volpe for a second. So right now on the NFBC, he's going as the 15th shortstop off the board at pick 131. Let's say spring training starts and he has 3 home runs in spring training and he's hitting 353. Where does that ADP go up to?
It's at 131 right now.
I think he could be, and I know he was a big mover last year. I think if people see any glimpse in spring training that he's figured it out with the bat, he is going to skyrocket because of his stolen bases and his power.
Well, yeah, he's definitely jumping Swanson.
I could see him around 100. Like I look at where Ha-Seong Kim.
So you have him going right here between Kim and Bogarts.
I see Kim going down. I mean, I think about it too. Like we're waiting for some free agents to sign, which might bolster a lineup.
I think he'd go in the top 75.
That's spicy.
I think if he shows in spring training that it looks like that he's a better approach to the plate and he has a really good spring training, you're not going to be able to get him after the 5th round. People are going to jump him.
Yankee tax on him.
Yep.
That could happen. That's realistic. I mean, 209. It'd be hard to project him for a top 75 if you're hoping he hits like 230 though.
I mean, if he hits 250,
if he hits 250, yeah,
that's a big jump from last season though.
But he was a rookie too, so I mean, keep in mind,
sophomore slump,
or he's seeing more. I mean, it's hard to slump more than 209.
That's true.
I want to see just really quickly his minor league numbers, what his batting average was in the minors. While I'm doing that, LC, can you talk about Dansby Swanson, and do you think his stolen bases come back this year? Because I think he's also potentially a value here. 22 bombs last year, only 9 steals. But if those stolen bases come back, I feel like he's also at a good point here.
I think Dansby's a good baseball player, like the type of player who's going to take steals if they're available. I know he played a lot of games, but I think he played through an injury a little bit last season. Hit fairly well. First season on a new contract in Chicago. The Cubs offense, I think, is getting put together pretty well. We still need to make a new signing or two, but Dansby's been consistent, and his steals have come when he wanted to steal. So I could see him getting back into double digits again. The thing where I would hope for Dansby to grow is to get that power back up to the high 20s home runs that he was getting in Atlanta. But the batting average is going to be league average or better. The speed, it's really about desire with him. I wouldn't project him for more than 10.
Going back to Volpe for a second, he had a career 263 batting average in the minors across all 3 seasons. He did hit with the Yankees AAA affiliate in Scranton in 2022. Granted, it was only 22 games. He did hit in that season. I'm sorry, in the I'm looking at the single A 2021. He hit 302. Then when he got to Scranton AAA, he hit 236. Then he got sent down to Double A and hit 251. So again, cumulative across all the stages, 263. And then kind of it looks like in the upper level of the minors, kind of bounced around from like 230 to 250-ish, like in that range. So maybe a 240 batting average is best case scenario here. You never know. But if he hit 240 with 25 homers and 30 RBIs, that's still really, really good. I'm sorry, 25 homers and 30 stolen bases. That's still really, really good.
Yeah, you could be this year's breakout. I guess we'll see.
Also, shout out to Toby talk about Thairo Estrada. Frank also talked about Thairo Estrada last week, and we gave him some love there because he's, I think, a sneaky value. Right now, Thairo Estrada going as in terms of shortstops, going as the 16th off the board, but also was a value at the second base position. So the eligibility there is good. But he does like Ha-Seong Kim and thinks that he hits the ball, especially the second half, most underrated. I think we're all kind of scared of what we saw in the second half not being the real Ha-Seong Kim, and the first half showed that. And I think we just don't want to pay the full tax on it right now. I think we all kind of were saying that for Kim. Do you guys think, before we move on to the fades, Champ, who also I've never seen in the chat. So welcome to the program. Appreciate you hopping in the stream here. Champ asks, do you think Tyler Black and Robert Gasser both make opening day roster for the Padres?
This is tough. The Padres are in a transition year. I feel like they're close to tanking. Them not making an effort to re-sign Soto and letting Josh Hader go, to me, shows that they're tanking. And if they're tanking, I feel like they wouldn't.
Not for the Padres. I'm sorry, the Brewers. I'm thinking of some different player. Sorry, it's for the Brewers.
Gotcha. Man, Brewers could be a dark horse this year.
I like what the Brewers are building right now. They have a lot of young players, so I think they might push him. And last year in AAA, I mean, his numbers weren't bad. Obviously, a 236 average at AAA isn't great. Or, I'm sorry, 135 innings pitched at AAA. I was looking at opponent batting average. 236 opponent batting average isn't like horrible. I don't know. I feel like the Brewers are going with like a youth movement, and so he could help. I don't know what the shape of Aaron Ashby is. Corbin Burns might not stay the full season with the team. I mean, Freddie Peralta was a stud, but Freddie Peralta isn't like the track.
Freddie Peralta also gets hurt.
I could see it, and he's obviously Gasser's one of their higher end prospects too.
I was going to say the Padres drafted him, right?
That's where I think that's where I think I got it from. So I remember Gasser being on the Padres. So I forgot. So I must have missed when they traded him to the Brewers.
Yeah, and I think there's a chance for Tyler Black to be opening day third baseman. Like the Brewers aren't set at third base right now. So Tyler Black has been someone that people have gone to as like a late at bats potential for third base. Prospect that might, because they like third base for the Brewers is Andrew Monasterio right now. Maybe Owen Miller plays third base. Like, who are we talking about?
Also, Gasser came in the Josh Hader trade.
That's it.
Yeah,
that was it.
So I do remember him being on the Padres. So I'm not a complete idiot for that. I do remember that. But let's go back to the shortstops, and the fades in this range, as we are now in the 11 to 20 fades. And Elsie, back to you. Who are you fading here?
Tough call on this for me. I think Jackson Holliday is my fade. The 20th shortstop off the board. I just don't think that he's going to produce a really impressive rookie season. His minor league numbers, like I think he was a top overall pick in 2022. He's a great talent, but his minor league numbers up until now do not show like an abundance of power or speed. And so because I don't really see, without, just something clicking in him this year, and all of a sudden he finds the power and he finds some more speed. I don't think that there's going to be like a huge fantasy output from Holiday this year. So I think I'm just going to pass on him. And if he breaks out, I'm just going to miss it.
I'll say this. He's at least starting there in AAA.
You think so?
Well, once again, I'm not trying to shameless brag as I have my Gunnar Henderson AA bobblehead, but when I was working a deal with the Bowie Bay Sox, and we were talking about their promotion items, and I talked about doing something Jackson Holliday related, and the marketing manager said he's not playing any games here barring injury or rehab. He's either starting out the year in AAA or the majors. So I think from an organizational and a PR move, they know that he's going to be up sooner rather than later.
Or they could start him out the year because they want the compensation that they get if he wins Rookie of the Year, which has become a huge appeal for teams to push their guys to start the year with the big league clubs, even if they're struggling to kind of let them figure it out. I think he starts the year with them. I really do. I think the Orioles, like last year, obviously they were one of the big surprise teams. They have one of the best rosters in terms of young talent. And how are you going to get even more hype and more people to come to the ballpark from day one? You have or you have Jackson Holiday start the first game of the year.
Let me ask you.
Sure.
Let's say they traded Jordan Westberg and Ryan Mountcastle to get an arm. Do you feel differently about Jackson Holiday?
I think there's a good chance he does start the season with the team, but I don't feel differently because I don't think he's going to, he might be like a 10-10 player with a decent batting average as a rookie, because he's only 20 years old. He's not like fully developed yet. He's played, 91 plate appearances at AAA so far, so that's why I worry about him. He hasn't shown the power or the speed yet. So I think that you can go in a different direction later than him and get some power, speed, or better batting average.
Okay, fair enough. Doc, really quick, you did put Tommy Edman as your dislike here. I know we kind of trashed him last week a little bit. So you weren't here, so you missed the Tommy Edman.
I listened after I put him as my fade. So great minds think alike.
Yeah, so is there any points you wanted to add to what we talked about last week with him?
I mean, just the only thing, obviously the wrist is a concern. John Fenton, that covers the Cardinals, that has been on the fantasy baseball beat, said they hope that he's back by opening day. And I know Tommy Edman did just sign a 2-year extension to avoid arbitration. So maybe there's a little bit of optimism that he's going to be ahead of time. But when a report like that comes out in January, that you're hopeful that he's ready in a season essentially starting 3 months from now, that does worry me. The ground ball rate has gone up the last 3 seasons. It was at 51% last year. And he had a 248 batting average last year, which was about league average, but it's been lower than 265 4 out of the last 5 years. So, to me, he's really given you steals, but he hits at the bottom of the lineup a lot. And the Cardinals look really lost at times.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't think it's worth it at all. Even at, look, ADP 159, it's a little pricey.
Yeah. I'll close this one out. Ezequiel Tovar. Do you guys in and out are out on him? Because you look at his numbers, he played 153 games last year. He was obviously one of the league leaders in games played last year. Man only put up 15 homers and 11 stolen bases in that many games. 27% strikeout rate. The guy's only hitting a fly ball 30.7% of the time. When he was, obviously he was only 9 games, but 29% fly ball rate in his rookie season or his first 9 games in 2022. Hits the ball on the ground a little too much for my liking. I think he's just kind of a nobody. That like he's just somebody that maybe I would take him if he was, going a few rounds later. But right now, to have basically almost a full season, go 15-11, and be going as, I guess he's the 21st ranked off the board. When I was writing this earlier, he was the 20th off the board. Mm-hmm. I would rather take Jackson Holiday over him any day of the week.
Tovar produced over 150 runs plus RBIs last season, even with the season he put together, which is solid production for where he's going. I don't hate him. He's not someone I'm targeting for sure, but I don't hate him where he's going.
I think his ADP is fair. He's an accumulator. He's one of their highly touted prospects. He's going to play, barring injury. Plays half of his games in cores.
Yeah, but it's also one of the worst lineups in baseball.
Yeah, but once again, his ADP right now is 195. I think he's going to give you more runs and RBIs than Tommy Edman.
Put these 3 in order for me in terms that you'd want to draft them. Jackson Holiday, Ezequiel Tovar, Jeremy Pena, all going 3 in a row.
Jackson Holiday, Jeremy Pena, Jeremy Pena 1. Jackson Holiday is 1 if I know he's starting out the year on the major league roster.
Golly, that's a tough one.
Jeremy Pena is my outside 20 I like. So
well, I'm going to connect them in a second so you can talk about him.
I don't know. I think I'd stay away from those 3, to be honest.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think I would go, obviously with you drafting now, you don't know if Jackson Holiday is going to start the year. I think I would go Jeremy Pena, Jackson Holiday, Ezekiel Tovar, and then
That's
if,
my order.
like Doc said, if you got, I mean, if you found out Jackson Holiday was going to start the year, he would be also rising ADP. So let's count that as well, because he would not be going this late if he's an opening day third baseman or opening day shortstop. So, yeah, I think that's where it stands right now. But I you ask me tomorrow, I might flip Jackson Holiday over Pena, even without the guarantee that he starts the year. So we will see that. But Doc, get to our last segment, the players going after the top 20 shortstops. We mentioned Jeremy Pena. I think he kind of burned people last year after what looked like to be a World Series, that kind of awakening to people of what he could be as a young star. Kind of struggled last year. So why should we buy back in?
So, I mean, you kind of led me right to my point of he's somebody I didn't have any shares of last year because I felt like he had to overdraft him. And I think the price is right now at 229. So he's been in the league 2 years. He's still 26 years old. Both seasons, he's given you 10 home runs, 10 stolen bases. So a decent floor. What I think is interesting, I look at his first half last year, 246, 10 home runs, 8 stolen bases. I'll put in air quotes, sold out for power. Second half, 284, 0 home runs, 5 stolen bases. So he's shown that he can hit for power in stretches and that he can hit for batting average. And I think it's a mix of finding it and finding a fine balance. And I mean, the home run upside is there. He did hit 22 in 2022. I'm not worried that the ground ball rate did go up because he's in the 95th percentile sprint speed. And I know that roster resources projected to have him hit 8th, but that's still 8th in a really good Astros lineup. And I just read some context from Dusty Baker, although he retired. At one of his parting conferences, he said, I think Jeremy Pena can still be a superstar and that he's going to be at the core of the Astros lineup when Altuve and Bregman are gone. And I think, once again, recency bias kicks in. He had an awful postseason. Hit 200 with 1 extra base hit and 40 at-bats, which is the complete opposite of him winning World Series MVP. But I think people are going to look at that most recent postseason run, and that factors into his ADP now. So I like the upside, I like the lineup context, and I like the price that I can get him at this year.
All right, fair enough. LC, who is your player?
I have 2 names that I want to throw out.
And a good-looking guy, too. Look at that. Good smile.
I have 2 names that I want to throw out to you guys, and I just want to hear your thoughts on Tim Anderson, depending on where he signs, and John Birdie, the starting shortstop for the Miami Marlins. Late speed for Birdie, possibility of career high in plate appearances. Tim Anderson, currently a free agent, going late. Are we done with Timmy?
Nah, I like TA.
No, I'm not done with him at his ADP right now. Oh my God. I mean,
it's super late.
448. I'm definitely willing to take a shot on him for sure. Like, yeah, like I think it's
not like the White Sox are a well-run organization.
No, like could be going somewhere else is a really good thing. I've not heard anything about any sniffs about.
Look at how many free agents are still out there. Blake Snell, Cody Bellinger.
Tons of them.
Yeah, so I don't think it's reflective on him, more just of the movement we've seen.
Yeah.
It could be a 1-year prove it deal too, where he's going to make sure that he tries to get his next contract.
I think going this late, I think he's going to want to start wherever he goes, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to, but going this late, he's a pretty good bet to bring his batting average back up. I think he's going to have a better season than last year. I think there's no way he has as poor of a season as he had last year.
I agree. I think he's a good value right now for sure. And Birdie, obviously, we know when he plays every day, he could potentially lead the majors in stolen bases, or at least be in the running for it. 16 last year, 41 the year before. So it's just he's got to get the playing time and the consistency, because
he's supposed to be the starting shortstop right now. So he's going really late too. So I went pretty deep on these recommendations. He's supposed to be the starting shortstop.
What's Birdie's ADP?
He is right now going as 488.
All right. I mean, for that ADP I'm in, I just think the only reason we're talking about him is that stretch he had last year where he stole 16 or
2 seasons ago.
2 seasons ago,
Yeah.
where he had that insane stretch.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we can take away from this is with Art connecting it to this conversation, there are so many late shortstops you can get. Birdie, Chris Taylor. You know, if you think Ahmed Rosario on the Dodgers could be interesting.
He's a free agent as well.
Sorry, he was with the
Yeah.
Dodgers at the end of last year. That's right.
Yeah.
Ahmed Rosario,
And they said you suck, so we're not bringing you back.
Tim Anderson, Price Durang, who was brought up on last
Yep.
week's show.
Yeah,
Jordan Lawler,
I like him.
Jordan Lawler, who is one of the Arizona Diamondbacks' top prospects if they promote him this year. Zach Neto, who looked great at the top of the Angels lineup. JP Crawford, who obviously put up amazing numbers in the second half of last year.
Love me some JP Crawford.
And Carlos Correa.
Don't forget.
Carlos Correa could be one of the best bargains in the draft if he's back.
25th.
He could be. I've taken him in a few drafts. He falls.
Vaughn Grissom, I know you guys talked about him last week if he gets second base eligibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Elsie. Carlos Correa is a 25th ranked shortstop off the board.
He could, because you look at who's going ahead of him. He could be good batting average, 20 plus home runs again next season, just like he did every year the past few seasons before last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's definitely a value, and I definitely will probably find myself with some shares of him for that reason as well. But I think we'll close that out on that discussion here, as we covered a lot of shortstops tonight, and I think we learned that it's deep, and there's some difference makers at the top, obviously, and there are some landmines that you have to watch out for. But the potential for some of these guys are huge. You know, you got the Ellies and the O'Neill Cruzes. You have like the guys at the top, the Bobby Witts and Corey Seagers, and then you have the guys like Correas and Vaughn Grissom's and the potential Birdies and others and Tim Anderson that could be values. This is a very deep, interesting position, and I think it's one of those things. If you don't get one of the high end guys, you shouldn't freak out, because there are a lot of good guys to get. Just a ton of depth here. So, anything you guys would like to add as we close out our shortstop discussion?
You know, if you feel like you don't want to support a certain website, you know, I understand. I don't know what's been going on in the community. I just kind of keep my.
What does that have to do with shortstops?
Well, no, I was going to do another plug of Underdog, that you can draft some of these shortstops on Underdog drafts.
There, look at that. All comes full circle.
Exactly.
All full circle there. Speaking of Underdog drafts, we will be at some point, I think, in February, starting potentially or maybe early March, doing some of our Underdog drafts again here at Triple Play. So if you're interested in drafting with us on Underdog, just send the Triple Play Fantasy account on X a DM. That's at Triple Play Fantasy. And we have a Twitter group or X group going on the platform, where every time we do drafts, we put it in there, and whoever wants to join, the first ones to sign up will get to draft with us. And it's usually only like $5 for a draft. And then you're in it with like anywhere from 4 to 6 people, and whoever wins the league wins the money. It's pretty simple. It's a fun little way to get some extra drafting in with minimal effort, as obviously best ball. You don't have to fix your lineup for that. And we're hopeful that we will also have a triple players ball type of league going this year. So we're figuring out the details for that. So if you guys like the triple players ball and want back in on the league, just make sure to send LC an email or a DM at ArtTPF, Doc at Triple Play Fantasy, or me at DMendio2, and we'll get you in the triple players
Marty's
ball.
good too.
Oh yeah, add Marty_Tallman as well. Always forget, since he's not here, I wasn't even on my brain. But I always got to remember for my guy Marty. But that's going to wrap us up here for this week for the Marty Party we miss. For a little cheesecake, for Doc, I'm D Mendy. We're going to make like a bread truck, and we're going to haul these buns. Talk to you guys next week.